Greetings. Welcome to day 7 of Shark Week. I'm so glad you're here. This has been an amazing week, and thanks for joining me again today. Please say hello in the chat box like Renate has from the Bay of Fundy. So please tell me if you've ever seen a great white shark before. You probably haven't. You've probably seen a lot of movies about them. And that's one reason I wanted to end our amazing week with this king of the ocean. And my first memories of great white sharks were, of course, the movie Jaws when it first came out. That's dating my age. But everybody got so afraid of great white sharks, and they do deserve respect. But they're more likely that you'll be hit by lightning than bitten by a shark, especially a great white shark. So today we're going to draw one. And if you're lucky enough to be in my course, you got the high resolution handouts. Now, it's not too late because this is the 7th day of Shark Week, and it is the last day that I'm talking about sharks and talking about this course. So members of my course get to download all of these high resolution images, as well as other images of other species of sharks. So I hope you'll check that out. I've been talking about it in my email newsletter, and there's also a link to it above in the chat box and in the other days of our workshops. So this week we have been sketching an amazing variety of sharks. We did the whale shark, and we did the hammerhead shark, and we did the lemon shark, and the blue shark, and the nurse shark yesterday, as well as the mako shark. And our great white shark is closely related to makos, and we'll look at its anatomy in a moment. So so we are sketching the great white shark today, and I am going to be sketching on this toned paper like I did for the whale shark. And so the materials I'm using might be different than what you have, but that's okay. And even if you don't have any materials, I encourage you to stick around and watch, because sometimes it helps to learn about the shark and learn my techniques. And then you can gather your materials and then you can watch the replay with the words turned down, so you don't have to listen to me talking the whole time. But I do have lots of helpful information. So I'm going to be starting off with a regular pencil, and then I'm going to be shading with my favorite charcoal pencil. Then I'll be blending, and then I'll also be adding some white highlights with a white charcoal pencil, and lifting out some highlights with my pen. So my erasing pencil, actually, you can sharpen this. And this is another one I use. It's actually rectangular shaped. What else? And then I might add a bit of highlights with my black Uniposca pen, and also some sharp white highlights, like maybe the teeth, with my white opaque Uniposca pen. And then just for fun, I might be adding a little bit of red, because we've got some of that beautiful red flesh there, the highly vascularized flesh between the teeth. And let's see, I think that's all the tools. That's right, I think so. I have another blending stop here, which is not blending stop, sorry. This is my other eraser, which is a circle. So it really helps to have the right tools to get the right effects. But even if you only have a sketching pencil, most of my ideas I chat about will refer to you too, will be related to you too. Let's see, looking at the comments, Renate says she saw great white sharks swimming in the waters around the dry tortugas. Oh, amazing. The dry tortugas are at the very southern end of the Florida Keys, and I've actually been there. It's an amazing, beautiful, remote and kind of stark national park. And I actually was snorkeling there, and I saw a conch. The mollusk that's really large that people eat. And so I didn't see any sharks though, but I did see the really cool queen conch living and swimming along the shore. not swimming along the shore. What am I saying? It was on the shallow, sandy area, making its way along the sand. Okay, so I've been talking way too much this week. Just a sec. Let me get a little drink. So are we ready to follow along? Renate, do you have your materials? And if you have any questions about sharks, any questions about my materials, or questions about my course, remember, it's only available through today, this last day of Shark Week, and it's only $25. Yes, so let's see, what are we doing here? So we are looking at our shark first, and like I chat about in my courses, it's always good to look at an animal from various directions if you can. And so that's why I give my students these high resolution images of sharks in various poses. And I also give students a set of high resolution images of the sharks actually in their native habitat without them masked out here, because it's nice to see them both ways. So yeah. Oh, hello, Diane. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, and in my course, I actually do a step-by-step demo of this shark, which is even scarier than this one with his mouth wide open. And so you can see that, and I also have a handout of the side view. So, and so, yeah, if you have kids in your life, they're shark crazy, this is an amazing course that you can give to kids as well. And so they would really like that. In fact, I just finished a week-long summer camp with the theme of Shark Week that I designed for kids between 8 and 12 years old. And all of the kids did great, even doing these really detailed drawings that I'm teaching you today, even the 8-year-olds. But this course is also great if you're a marine educator or work in marine conservation. So anyway, we've got lots of different shapes here. And so I said that the great white is related to the mako, and one way you can tell is they have pretty small second dorsal fins and anal fins and pelvic fins. So we've looked at various shark species this week, and they all had different shapes and sizes. And that's one way you can tell the species is by the shapes and sizes of the fins. Now, speaking of size, of course, the great white is aptly named because they get really large, especially the females. They get up to 15 feet long. And of course, they're threatened with extinction, like the other sharks we've talked about this week from overfishing. And so, so yeah, we want to appreciate their size and shape. So anyway, we are doing this one today. And I'm going to move these here. So every day of this week of Shark Week, we've been doing a different species in a different pose. And even if you don't like sharks or even hate sharks or are afraid of sharks, it's really good exposure therapy to draw them and to draw them at different poses, which helps you with three-dimensional form. And I talked a lot with my kids about that this last week. We talked about the similarities and differences between drawing something realistically, like a scientific illustration, and drawing it more in a cartoon style, like the shark Bruce in Finding Nemo. And I actually showed the kids a clip of Bruce in that movie and showed how realistic it was, but also how they emphasized the expressions, especially of the eyes and the mouth, which were pushing the reality a bit. So kids really enjoyed learning that. Okay, so anyway, we're going to look at our shark that we're going to draw. This is the first one we're drawing in this pose. And so this shark is looking straight at us. Now, remember, if you want to watch the rest of this free series of live classes, you can catch them on YouTube. They're in my playlist. It's called Sketching Sharks, aptly enough. So hi, Diane. Thank you so much. You say your commentary is very helpful. Yeah, because the more you observe something, from different angles and from photographs and from videos and even from real life, if you're brave enough to be in a one of those shark cages, the more you're going to draw it with accuracy and ease and confidence and joy. All right. And so the act of drawing, of course, will help you become more empathetic to an animal. And that's one of the main reasons I teach drawing, not just to, learn the parts, but the more you look at something and draw it, the more you have empathy for it. And maybe you'll want to conserve it. Now, you probably can't do anything directly except to donate to shark conservation groups. And inside my shark sketching course, I list all of the main conservation groups and their websites so that you can contribute to them if you want, and also learn a lot more about shark biology and anatomy and migration and conservation and threats. So anyway, let's look at this shark. It looks really complicated, but as usual, I'm sure you can follow along. I've been seeing a lot of my students posting their pictures of their sharks. And again, this guy is closely related to the mako shark. So anyway, so in a way that it's got this tall dorsal fin, and the other fins are quite small. We've got our second dorsal fin, which is really small, like the mako. And we've got this anal fin, which is quite small. I should kind of outline it here. I didn't do a good job cutting out. And then the second pelvic fin pair is right there. So those are quite small. Also, the tail is not very. It's more shaped like a crescent moon. So that's another similarity with this mako shark. That the top and the bottom lobes are more equally shaped than, say, yesterday's nurse shark that we did, that had a very long tail, almost like the thresher shark. So those are the things we're going to look at. Now, you can hardly see the gills, since the shark is looking straight at us. What you see here is actually right here, you see the edge of the face. And then the gills, they're right here, and they've got 5 gills, but because they're facing us directly, we're not really going to see them. We might just draw a little line to suggest them. Okay, and then what else? Okay, let's see. So how are we going to attack? How are we going to attack this great white shark that we're drawing today? So first, again, we want to notice that we've got the snout that's closest to us. So we're really going to emphasize that in our drawing. And then you actually see the pair of nostrils really well. So they've got really highly developed senses, like we've talked about all week, that help them to find their prey. So they not only have their nostrils, but in this view, we also see those little dots, and I'm going to darken those a bit for you. Does anybody remember what this sensory system is called? These little dots on the tip of their snout. Can anybody add that to the chat box? You also see a little bit of its snout is wrinkled here under the nose because it's starting to open the mouth. So that's a little bit wrinkled there. And I don't know, is this too blown out for you? Maybe that's a little bit better right there. And we can lighten it as we start sketching. So they have their, anybody know the name of these things? I'll let you try to name them in a sec. Then we have the nostrils, and then of course we have the eyes. And the eyes don't show a highlight, but we're definitely going to add that highlight in our drawing. I'll put it here a little bit. Maybe you can see that. And then let's see, let's get this bigger. You don't need to look at me. What am I doing here? So then we've got the eyes, and then we have the lateral line as well, which we can't really see in most sharks, but it parallels that edge where we've got the keel at the base of the tail, and it goes above the gills and up towards the brain. And so in this shark, we also do not see the keel very well. Let me see. So that's why it really helps to look at a few different photos. The keel is that ledge that is above those last fins and goes into the base of the tail. And we've accentuated that in a few of our drawings, like right here. And that's the wonderful thing about drawing and about being like a scientific illustrator like I am, is that you're supposed to show things that you can't see very well in photographs. That's the beauty of being able to do that. So like on our whale shark, we really emphasized that keel line right there. We also showed it well here on the mako shark. And we could see it pretty well. Let's see, who else did we see it well on? We saw it on the lemon shark right there, and also on our hammerhead shark. So remember, I did sketching demonstrations of all of these, and they're all on the YouTube channel. And I encourage you to click the share button so that you can share it. Now, sharks also have this ledge kind of that goes from their snout and above their eyes to their gills. That's something else we can't see very well in this photograph, but we're going to accentuate it. So we actually see kind of the it's a ledge right there, and then that highlight comes down above the tip of their snout there. So yeah, so let's get started drawing, and then we can really see it. So who's ready to start drawing with me? I'm sorry, there's this yellow part. This yellow is a towel, and I try to put towels everywhere to improve the sound because my new studio is a little bit echoey. So anyway, pardon the towel. All right, so we are not going to have much room here. This shark is going to be right here. So yeah, we're going to do that. Okay. And then we're going to see how this looks. No, we want to get that a little bit bigger. We want to make sure that we lock that. Okay. So we'll see how well you can see this. So I'm going to draw a little bit darker than I want you to draw. Okay. And so we got to make sure we got room for everything. So we've got this big fin sticking up here. And then we have the circle of the head. And that circle, we got to leave room for the fins coming down. A pair of pectoral fins. So yeah, we got to leave room for that. So we're going to have this. And then we're going to have like a triangle going back from kind of near the top of the head. So notice we're not doing any erasing. We're being really light and loose so that we feel good about this. Let's see. And the tail is below. It's going to be below. And if you have the photographs, you're able to actually directly do this kind of stuff I'm doing. And in my course, I talk a lot about how to get the correct proportions. I can't give everything away for free, else I would be broke. So I do reserve some of my trainings for my students in my paid programs. Okay. I try to be really generous with what I share with the public, because especially kids love sharks, right? And so not all kids and parents have the money for a full course. So part of my motto really is being able to support kids and families so that they can conserve the natural world. That's also why I try to keep my classes really well priced. This class on sharks that I'm offering this week is only $25, and it's probably my best value of all of my courses, because again, I really want to be able to provide a class that parents can afford, as well as educators. So marine educators don't make much money. I actually used to work at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Well, I have to admit it wasn't actually an internship. It was an internship. And so I didn't get, I think maybe I did get paid a little bit. I lived in Monterey for the summer. That was one of the best summers of my life. And I actually got my scuba diving license at the aquarium. All righty. Yeah. Okay, so we're starting to get the shapes. So I've got a circle here for kind of the whole front of the body, like this, right? And I double checked my proportions. Yeah, and then trying to get those proportions. So I always try to get this silhouette first before I start getting the details, because the actual mouth and eyes and snout are smaller than that circle. Yeah, Renate said you're already sketching. Wonderful. Good. And it is so important to get these proportions pretty close before you start adding any details. So like this tall, kind of skinny fin, and then trying to get, and again, I will measure here. Oh, pretty close. Good. And firm up that line. And it's widest down here. It's widest down here. And it's deepest right in the middle there. So when you're drawing, you always want to kind of think about that. Deepest right here. And then this line we're really not going to want too much of. And then the tail comes out really a little bit below the head right there. So we've got this area here. And as I've mentioned before, it's a little bit challenging to draw when this paper is taped down so that you can see it, because I am normally moving my paper to be more ergonomic. And then we've got the tail, and the tail is arching backwards, and it's lower. It's much lower than the tip of the fin. So yeah, we're getting that. And it's this crescent moon shape. You still see we're not spending too much time erasing, because it tends that if you erase something too quickly, you're spending all your time erasing, it often ends up that you're just doing the same mistake over and over again. So it really helps to have those tri lines. Let's see, we've got the pectoral fin the pelvic fin that's barely peeking out there. And just a little tiny negative shape. Okay, and then we want to, let me see, I've got that a little too thick. I always tend to do that. It's really important to have that tail be the thinnest part of the body. That base of that tail is always the very thinnest part of the body. Okay. And then, so I do have to do some erasing before I can add the pelvic and anal fins in the right place. So the top. Remember, these are in that same group with the mako sharks, and they have a pretty small anal. And yeah, okay. And then so sometimes I'm holding both of my eraser and my pencil together. So when you start getting that final, yeah, I really encourage you not to do much erasing until you have the right lines down. It'll look a little bit messy, but I think that's pretty close. Okay. And then let's see, we've got the fins. So, and this one's pretty long. Oh, got it pretty good there. I think I might have cut. Yeah, I think I cut a little bit of it off when I was trying to use the scissors. And then it arches into the body a bit there. Am I too thick there? Something's a little bit off here. Oh, I see. I just need to get this a little bit deeper here. I think I'm going to do that a little bit deeper. And then this other fin, it's kind of directly across. And it's shorter because he's turning a bit. Shorter and a little bit smaller. So this fin is a little bit farther away from us. All right, how are we doing here so far? Looking pretty good. We're getting our outline of our great white shark. And yeah, in case you just joined, you can catch up later. Again, I always suggest, even if you've just joined or if you don't have the drawing materials, to just stick around. So yeah, this time of year during Shark Week, there's a lot of news about sharks, and they try to emphasize people being killed. There's even a lady recently killed in Santa Cruz, where I used to live. But, statistically, there's just more and more people in the world than there used to be. Aren't there almost 8 billion of us or something? And so it's just more and more likely, especially in the summer, that we're going to be in the same habitat as sharks. And unfortunately, sharks eat fish and seals and birds, depending on the species. And we are hunting those animals to extinction. So, predators have fewer and fewer things to eat. So sometimes they might be looking for prey that they normally don't eat, like a human. And so, yeah, we are taking all of the bait fish and the base of the food chain to feed our cats and to make fertilizer. And for shark fin soup, and just all the reasons we've been talking about this week, that people hunt sharks and also hunt the things that they eat, like salmon in the Pacific Northwest. Okay, so we've got our silhouette as if we're, looking at this with the moon behind us, and we've just got the silhouette. So I think that's pretty close. We want to get started with the eyes and the nose and the snout and the mouth. Get those all placed, and then start the highlights and shadows, which is the really fun part. So yeah, we've got the mouth kind of here, the jaw. You can't see that very well. But again, that's the wonderful thing about drawing is that you can make something actually more realistic than any photo because every photo is going to have different lighting and it might not really accentuate the three-dimensional form very well. So how are we doing here? Again, I love teaching live so that you can ask questions or comment. And as soon as we're done with this, I will add this sketching demo to my playlist on the YouTube channel called Sketching Sharks. So you can see all 7 days. Yeah, okie dokie. So I think we're just about ready to show where these other parts are. So where do we start? Well, we can notice where the eyes are compared to the top of the head and compared to other structures to get those in the right place. And I noticed that this eye is right below the edge of this fin. So it's in this line here. And then where is it in relationship to the tail? It's pretty much in relationship to sort of the top of the base of the tail. So, I would kind of take a line like this to place those eyes. All right. And then this other eye is pretty close to the top of the head there and a little bit farther in from the edge. So let's get those eyes placed. And we're looking at them from the side, so they're not going to be round. They're going to be more ovals. And double checking that I have those far enough apart. Let's see. Oh, there's something a little bit wrong here. I think I need to get this a little bit farther. So I teach these methods of proportions and different things where you're comparing. I think that's close enough. What do you think? Okie dokie. And then we've got the nostrils just inside and a little bit lower than the middle of the eye. So as you draw, you just look at what you've drawn so far. And if you've been careful about your outside proportions, you'll get them pretty close. Now we have the snout, and the snout is just to the right of the fin. So, and it's about in line with the tops of the nostrils. So we're going to have a highlight on that snout area, and it's pretty pointy. It's pretty pointed here. Now, again, if we look at a different angle, we got our snout, we got our nostrils, we've got our eyes, and nobody said the word. Did anybody get the word for these little sensory pores on their snout? Anybody want to add that? Anybody remember? And if you're in my course, you get to download these handouts that teach you about how I get the right proportions. And you get to download this handout I made. Those dots are called the ampullae of Lorenzini, named after some dude named Lorenzini. Okay. All righty. So let's keep going. And so where were we? We had the snout. Now, right below that is the middle of the mouth, and the mouth kind of lines up with sort of the back of the tail there. And how wide is the mouth? The mouth is about as wide as where the eyes were. And then there's these little frown marks, kind of. Let's see. And of course, your shark could have a closed mouth or an open mouth. The other drawing that I did inside the course has it with the mouth wide open. And so here, this is different. And you see how the mouth, the whole head is raised. We don't have that. We have it more in line with the rest of the body, right, and head. So we've got a mouth, and then it's down like this a little bit. And then kind of a frown. And then it opens, and I think I'm going to include the edge of the red flesh, and that lines up kind of with the base of the fins. So I think we got that correct. And then we've got the black part. Well, we don't want to forget some teeth. And teeth overlapping here. I'm not trying to be exact with my teeth, but you know, there's several layers of teeth. We'll add those later. Yeah, and then there's some of the gums, and then it's super black inside. And we'll add that black, yeah, towards the end. All righty, how we doing here? We're getting really realistic now. Let's see. And at the top of this shadow here, and the highlight goes around here. And then we've got this jaw. There'll just be a little bit of shadowing here. And then we have kind of a shadow here. And we've got the gills a little bit. But that's going to all get covered as we add our shadowing. So you probably know the drill here. Let me see if I can lighten this a bit now. Yeah, there we go. Because I want to emphasize this drawing. I know this is blowing out a little bit, but we do want to emphasize this. So it's hard to get both, especially with a bright white shark. So we are going to get our shadows in first, just our basic shadows. So I'm going to add this. So I hope you're keeping up. I got to get a drink here, a coffee, and make sure. I want to see how we doing so far. Are we keeping up? Are we good with our proportions? Because it's always good to spend like 90% of your time getting your proportions right before you move on to the shadowing, else you won't be happy with your drawing. But if your proportions are way off at this point, don't worry. Just keep going with me for now, and you can draw it again later. The more you draw something, the better you get. So even if your proportions are really off, let's kind of switch now to the idea of getting the three-dimensional form and the highlights and shadows. So that will help you. Even if your proportions are way wrong, you can still learn a lot about light and shadow. So we're going to start adding our pigment here. And I'm going to use this favorite Carbon Sketch soft charcoal pencil, but you can use whatever you want, okay? Can anybody tell me in the chat box, say hello, are you still here, or smiley face or anything before I move on? I don't want to get too far ahead of you. And we have about 20 minutes left, and hopefully that's enough. Fabulous. Okay, Renate says, yes, doing great. Wonderful. Okay, so yeah, let's get this larger here. Perfect. And I think you can see that. I don't know if this other light is too much. Maybe I'll get rid of that other light. Okay, great. So when we start adding pigment here, we're trying to do two different things. We're trying to both show the color of the shark, and this shark is a typical kind of grayish, bluish, silverish. It's different than our lemon shark and our nurse shark, which were more of a warm yellowish brown. So what we're doing is we're going to add the pigment, but we're also going to want to use our shadowing for highlights and shadows on that pigment. Like we've got some highlights here, and even we've got some shadows under here. So let's just start. I will add more of my shadows as we blend. So we're going to use charcoal and then blending. And then I'll actually add my white charcoal to the belly. And that's one reason I'm using this toned paper. I don't know if you can tell here, but this is not white paper. So you can see the difference where, like, for example, we used the same toned paper for a whale shark, but we used white paper for the hammerhead shark. And so I really love using toned paper when you've got a lot of really obvious white on something, because it's kind of fun to not forget about white. Because a lot of times if you're drawing on white paper, you tend to just forget about the white. And we want to add some interesting highlights and shadows there. So I'm going to start, and I should put my glasses on. I'm just going to start softly adding. This is in my way, actually. I don't know why I'm wearing this. So I don't know if you can hear the plane going over, but you probably know that Oregon is the center of wildfires this year in the United States. And I've even had friends evacuated. So we've got lots of planes going over. Although gratefully we don't have any fires too close. I think the closest wildfire is about 20 miles north of us. But there are a lot of fires where I used to live in Central Oregon. So just praying for all my friends and family. So I'm mainly just adding the pigment directly with my charcoal pencil here. And I'm just going to use my blending stomp to add shadows on the white. And I kind of forgot a step. Usually I lighten my outline, but we can blend that in. Because a shark does not have an outline. So I just get this first layer. Oh, I didn't mean to do there where the... Okay. I didn't mean to do back here where it's... where the white is. But we'll add charcoal to that, white charcoal. Okay, so now I'm going to blend. And of course, you always have to be careful when you're using charcoal. Your hand can get on the charcoal. And what I'll often do when I'm drawing is I will protect the rest of my paper with a scrap piece of paper while I'm drawing. I haven't demonstrated that this week. I've kind of forgotten, but I'll demonstrate that now. So then you don't have to worry as much about smearing your drawing and of getting it on your hand, which will smear the drawing later as you go. So anyway, I am blending, and we see that demarcation between the pigmented top of the shark and the white unpigmented belly. And yeah, we call that counter shading, so that the dark shark blends in from the top with the depths of the ocean, and the light belly blends in when viewed from below with the brightness of the sky. So adding this, as we're just getting started, and remember we got our sun icon here. You might want to make one of those. Tell me, Diane or Renate, you've done lots of my classes. Have you made your own little sun icon? it is really helpful to have. Even for me, I'm, a professional scientific illustrator, and I've illustrated dozens of books and magazines, and I still like to have that little icon there when I'm drawing to help me not forget. And if you're drawing from a photograph, the photograph might be lit in the studio. So we want to correct some of that lighting, make it more realistic. And again, inside my courses, I talk a lot about how to emphasize three-dimensional form. It's not something you can do in one class, but I hope for those of you who've been following along this week, you're starting to get some practice. And many of you who are watching live this week already are my students. And if you're in my monthly membership, we're actually doing our master class this month. Every month we have an in-depth master class on a subject. And this month it's going to be on perspective. Aerial and linear perspective, but especially aerial or atmospheric perspective. And that's the rules of perspective are what we use, whether you're drawing a landscape or a shark, to emphasize three-dimensional form. All right. Renate says, no, you don't have your son with you right now. Great idea. It is cloudy here today. I mean, what I was asking is, have you made one of these little sun icons? It's really easy, of course, to make. And so as an artist, an observer of nature, we want to really emphasize highlights and shadows. And you might be using a photograph or watching an animal and drawing it, and it might be a cloudy day. And, you want to emphasize that. Or if you want to make it, if you want to make it a sunny day in your drawing, you have to kind of understand how light falls on three-dimensional objects. Okay, so we add the darkest darks like the eyes and the deep of the mouth at the end, so we don't smear it. Okay, how are we doing now? Good. 47. Oh, I only have like 10 more minutes, but I really want to make this one good. Just because I love drawing. Okay, so we're getting blended. So that's our first thing we always do. And we don't have to worry about the edges too much, because we make it, charcoals are a little bit messy. So we will clean up the very end. Okay. And then I want to go back in with my charcoal again and emphasize a bit more, starting to really see where the sun is. And, we add our highlights at the end. So let's just go back here. Now, for example, the base of the fin is going to be darkest because the sun is being prevented from sharing that right there. Same thing here. And it's going to be darker under the eyes and under the snout. And it'll be darker on this side than this side, even though it doesn't look like that on the photo. Again, we want to add what we know. And this is going to be darker. And I want to keep this a little bit blurry actually, because we really want to accentuate that this snout is coming towards us, and this snout could be 15 feet closer to us than this tail area. So like we've kind of done in some of our other workshops, we really want to emphasize. So I'm going to go in and blend again. And so I want to just keep this soft. If you've got kids or grandkids and they're into sharks, they are going to be so proud of your drawings. Tell me in the chat box. So I'm going to try to keep those edges more soft because this is farther away from us. And again, we'll do some erasing to clean that up a bit. It's usually the last 5 minutes or so of a drawing where you really get the darkest darks and the lightest lights that really makes it pop. So you got to be patient with this part because at this point, it kind of looks like a lot of values are sort of similar. Okay, let's start getting in our lights. And so I need to do some erasing. I need the stronger eraser because I really don't want that pigment here. And the shark's anal fin is white. And the top of the pelvic fin is white. But I don't think so. If this were a scientific illustration, I would probably be adding a bunch of white there. And maybe just a little bit, especially maybe where the tail is coming towards us. But I'm going to keep that really soft because, again, we want to really emphasize this is coming towards us. So let's start really emphasizing and adding some white. Now, you are probably not, you might not have toned paper. Do you hear the sound of the charcoal? I just love that sound. So we've got different choices with whites as we've talked about this week. We've got actually adding white with a soft charcoal or just erasing with a pencil eraser, or the strongest white is going to be our Uni Posca opaque pen. So we want to be kind of careful with that. Now we've got some highlights here. We want to separate this top of this animal from its fin, because those are very different planes, right? The fin is like this, the top is like this. And we've got this ledge here. So again, this is where you start adding things that you might not really see very well in this photo, but that we know from studying three-dimensional form is going to be there. Now the sun is over here, so this part of the body is going to be lighter. I'm going to really emphasize this. You only have about 5 more minutes officially, but I'm just going to try to do a really good job. You can come back later if you want. I try to keep these to an hour. So yeah, the tops of the cheeks are going to be lighter than the bottom. But let's do a little blending. And I usually have a blending stomp that's just for white. Let me clean my blending stomp. Get some of that charcoal off of it so it's softer. That's looking cool. This is the fun part. And getting there. Maybe some more. There'll be a highlight on this fin too. And maybe at the tip of this fin. And highlight on the front of this fin. So let's just keep pushing these values. Again, our sun's coming from over here. So think of this guy as a sphere, just like if you were practicing in art class. I love at this point when they start to look a little bit alive. Maybe a little bit of highlight here and here, but it's going to be super soft. All right, a little bit more blending. And wherever two structures come together, like your fin and your face, or the edge here, we kind of want to make that a different value. So we separate those a bit. Okay. There we go. And we want to try to get to the edge and not have any outline. Okay. And this part of the cheek would be lighter than this part. So we're doing things that we don't see in the photo. Okay. So let's see. I think I'm going to use a pen for my eyes. They're shiny, shiny black. We got to leave a highlight in there. So this is my black. Ooh, that's starting to look real fun. And then we want to add some black. Let's see, that's not the best pen. I can use a thicker pen. I want to make the black mouth. I need a thicker pen. Where's my thicker pen? These pens come in all different thicknesses. So this is when our shark really starts coming alive. And the roof of its mouth is going to be darker because we might actually see a subtle reflection. On the bottom of its mouth. So maybe I might just use charcoal for the bottom of the mouth. It's really subtle. You might not be able to tell. Okay. And we got our teeth. And I'm going to add a little red for fun. This is not blood. This is the gums, just like your gums would have red because the skin is thin and it's showing. But that makes it a little bit more fun, doesn't it? I don't know if you can see that. Oh, maybe we should go in a little closer. Let's do that. Okay. Yeah, I want to do that. Yeah, that's right. So I'm going to add and maybe blend that in a little bit. And then we want to get those teeth. And again, I could use a charcoal pencil, but I think I want to emphasize using this. And this is not the right one today because my thinner one died. I've got to go to the art store. Really need a new one. Okay. Oh, that's looking fun. Tell me in the chat box if you guys are good. Can you stay a few more minutes? You can always watch the replay, of course. But yeah, I would really love to have those more detailed, but I can sort of outline them in black as well to emphasize. Oh, that's looking better. Snaggletooth. Snaggletooth. So enough people are already scared of sharks, especially great white sharks. But it is sort of fun to really emphasize the spooky looking face, isn't it? And you know, they don't mean to be spooky. I mean, they need sharp teeth to eat their prey. They love seals and salmon and fish, other fish, and even other sharks. So there we go. Maybe a few more flattened teeth here. So these teeth are like a conveyor belt and they come up and new ones are created. So we'll see some from directly in front, some from the side. I'm not really happy with. Oh, another thing. Oh, this is what I could use. When you need really fine, very white details, here's one of my secrets. Bringing out the big guns for this. So Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White, or this Daler Rowney, which is brand new. I haven't used this yet. And so it's like this super opaque paint. And I'm going to use this this brush here. Uh, and maybe I can get a little bit better teeth. Oh, yeah, there we go. Now, I need them pointed. Now, I drank too much coffee this morning. Tell me in the chat box if you've used this before. Uh, it's just amazing what the right tools will do. Oh, yeah, that's looking good. Yeah, we can add some other teeth here, kind of. That's pretty good. Yeah, and then we could add our strong highlights. It's just magical at this point. Just adding some magic. Okay, let's not go overboard with that yet. But I'm going to set that here. Okay, so now we need to add just our last really obvious. Where are we here? We've actually got a little bit of pink in the snout. Maybe he's been banging his snout on something. But let's try to bring that forward a bit. Remember, there's going to be a highlight on top of that snout to bring it forward, as well as on this, and kind of highlights on the top of the eyes. Yeah, this is where it gets really fun. Ooh, he's looking spooky. And some wrinkles. Yep, wrinkles. And then we need a bit more shadowing. I might just use this. It's just always an iterative process. You just have to decide what you think might work. So going to be some shadowing under the eyes because the eyes are in an eye socket. And some wrinkling of the nose. Oh, yeah, that's looking fun. And we need a little bit of shadow here. Oh, yeah, we might kind of try to show a little bit of a gill, but it's going to be really subtle. Okay. And yeah, these gills on this side aren't showing at all. And yeah, there might be a little wrinkling here. Might want to add a little bit more white here. It depends if this guy is in shallow water, like some sharks that have been found patrolling the beaches. That shallow sandy water is going to be reflecting on the bottom here. So it might actually be a little darker in the middle here. So this is the process that could really go on for a long time, getting this super realistic. What time is it? Oh boy. How many people do we have? 3 people still watching. Okay, where are we here? Let's see. So just a little bit more blending. I just want to get this. So we want all of our sharpest edges to be right up front to really emphasize the shark is coming towards us. Remember, this whole head is 10 to 15 feet closer than the rest of the body. So that's why I'm not adding anything more back here. And I could even, soften those edges more to look like they're kind of in the murky water, especially that back of that tail. And especially because that tail is swishing, it would be a little bit fuzzy, right? Well, this is a little bit harsh right there. We don't want any harsh lines where we want things to be um, going away from us, okay? This is starting to look really realistic. What do you guys think? What do you think so far? So, just what else could we do? I want to just really a little bit more emphasis. And there gets to be a certain point where you want to stop looking at your reference photo. And is that not fair? You want to stop looking at your reference photo at a certain point, and your drawing is going to tell you what it needs. Because again, we are trying to get more realistic with a obvious direction to the sun, and we want to emphasize the edges of these closest parts, like this fin and even the bottom of the belly and this edge a little bit without really having any lines. Okay, so we are just trying to do our last. We want to do a really good job. Some of you guys have been joining me all week, and so I really want you to try to make this drawing your best drawing. So you're going to be kind of going back and forth between kind of softening things. Let's see, the lips are going to be, I need a little highlight on these lips. Okay. I think he's looking pretty good. Okay. Renate says you're using Posca pen, but difficult to share since round and too big for its white. Looking great. Afraid I might overwork things. Right. So there comes to be a point where you're definitely gonna, especially me, I tend to overwork things because I do have that background in scientific illustration, and I tend to want to work on things forever. But that's my shark. I'm always forgetting to invite guests. This is our last day. This might be too late to tell you guys this, but I did put a link just now. And that's my link to share if you want to share. I haven't mentioned that this whole week. We usually just share in our public or private classes, but if anybody is prepared to share what they've been doing, you would have to have video and audio capabilities, but I would love to see anything you've done this week. Again, we've been meeting live all week in celebration for Shark Week, and we've drawn. We want to remind ourselves what we've drawn this week, the amazing drawings a lot of you guys have shared with me. Diane says, what charcoal pencil are you using? I'm using this Generals brand Carbon Sketch Soft, but there's a ton of different kinds. And here's my Generals Charcoal White. You just want to play with different ones because they have different qualities, just like watercolors and pens and everything. And so you just want to play with those. So yeah, remember this week we started with the very simple side view of our blue shark. Then we did a side view of the mako, but he had his mouth open. Then we did the lemon shark, looking at it from above. And we did the hammerhead, looking at it from below. Then we did the turned view of the nurse shark. And then today's most challenging great white shark directly facing us and really emphasizing it coming towards us. And so, yeah, I just always want to try to put more and more in it. And yeah, just like when you go to the theater, if you see a live play, those actors and actresses are actually wearing makeup, and they're going to wear makeup that's a lot more obvious than they would like in real life, like at a party or whatever, right? So it's kind of the same with these drawings, that if you were going to make this a little bit more like Bruce the Shark cartoony, you'd make the eyes larger and you'd make the teeth larger than real life. And that's just kind of fun to do. But you don't have to. You can keep things real. We got to give it. Okay, I'm going to keep working on this forever. And doesn't look like anybody's wanting to share, so that's okay. I didn't mention it before. But I really want to thank you so much for joining me this week for Shark Week, drawing 7 species of shark every day for Shark Week. I hope you learned a lot about sharks, about their anatomy, about their endangerment especially, and all the fun ways we can draw them. And so I really hope you check out my course. It's on my website. There's a link at the top of the chat box. As well. It's christineelder.com/shark online course. And you can learn a lot more about sharks and some other species as well that we did not cover this week, including the black-tip reef shark and the tiger shark. So I hope you check that out. It's only $25, and today is the last time I'm talking about the course and talking about sharks for the year. We're moving on to other topics in August in my classes. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, I'm going to get going. Yeah, that was fun. I like my shark. I might make him look more like Bruce when we're done, Bruce the shark. But I think that's as good as he's going to get, at least now, in front of people when I'm talking. I can always do better without talking. And I hope you guys will keep working on your drawing or your drawings throughout the week. And you can improve those in a nice, quiet room with no talking. All righty. Thank you so much for joining me this week for Shark Week. And we'll see you around. Take care. Bye.